Everybody, I'm Camille Lenglois. I'm really happy to be here with you today. As Pierre said, I'm assistant curator till few years at Centre Pompidou, Musée National d'Art Moderne, Service Architecture. In 2020, I was working with Frédéric Miguerou, who is deputy director of the museum, on an exhibition called Neurons, Simulated Intelligences at the Centre Pompidou. Before, I worked with him on an exhibition which was Coding the World in 2018, dedicated to the code and its links with creation, architecture, design, dance, music, and so on. It explored the code, a form of technology which exists in all industrial sectors. Code has indeed shaken up the fields of information and our cultural practices and has become a new language, tracing its history and the way in which artists have made use of digital coding since the emergence of computer in the 80s. The exhibition revealed a common aesthetic and critical world which questions our daily lives irrigated by logic. So, Coding the World, was the second edition of Mutation Création. Mutation Création was a new event initiated in 2017, and this event focused on the prospect and interaction between technology and creation. At the crossroads between fields, combining research, art, engineering, this annual event was co-organized by the Musée National d'Art Moderne and the IRCAM and calls on art, architecture, design, and music. This platform for solo and themes exhibitions acts as a critical observer and analytical tool of the impacts of creation in our society. It raises different questions. First, how do various fields of creation use digital technology to open new industrial perspectives? Then, how do they examine the social, economic, and political effects or the ethical limits of such industrial developments? And what form do the mutations in the field of music, art, design, and architecture take relative to techno-scientific progress? At the heart of mutations creation, the artist encounters the engineer, the philosopher encounters the designer. Scientific innovation and technology draw inspiration from new thought, design, and production processes. In close synergy with these exhibitions, IRCAM presented Vertigo, its annual forum supported by the European Commission's START program. This event hosts meetings, performances, and shows in the dialogue between music, the arts, engineering, scientific research, and new technology. You have a link, for example, to the Forum Vertigo in 2020 in YouTube, if you are interested in it. The multitude of exchanges between creation, research, and teaching is embodied by numerous partnerships with university, research laboratories, and schools of art, architecture, and design. With the Neurons, Simulated Intelligences, we had the fourth edition of Mutation Creation. And this edition proposed a critical perspective on intelligence simulation technology. And it was connected with another show on Jeremy Shaw, most important artist of today. And this exhibition was important to demystify the idea of artificial intelligence, which is omnipresent today. And this by contrasting human intelligence with mechanical, machine, and computer simulation. Few slides to give you an overview of this exhibition. So first, we had, for example, this view. We have a first slide. As Pierre said, this exhibition was unfortunately closed 2 weeks after the opening because of the pandemic, the pandemic of coronavirus. So you can easily imagine our disappointment because we worked a long time on this exhibition. By addressing the story, if not the archaeology of artificial intelligence, the exhibition highlighted the continuity of the evolution of the use of neural networks in the computational domain, both for neuroscience and developing applications in the field of artificial intelligence and deep learning. This was short and long history. Through 5 research themes, the exhibition compared the chronology of creations and innovation, past and contemporary, of artists, architects, designers, and musicians with research by major scientific and industrial laboratories. At a time when artificial intelligence is extended into all corners of modern life, the Centre Pompidou had, for the first time, placed this phenomenon in the context of the history of neuroscience and neurocomputing with the exhibitions Neurons, Simulated Intelligences. The exhibition highlighted the ties between research by artists, architects, designers, and musicians, and the latest scientific and industrial advances. It was organized around 5 main areas of research, each of them presented and defined according to historical fields of reference in the form of graphs, and Philippe Morel created those graphs for the exhibition and for the different timelines. So the itinerary began with the representations and images that constitute the collective imagination of cerebral life, contrasting them with research in the field of digital imaging and the concept of an artificial brain. So here you have the first timeline dedicated to the brain and its representation. As Aristotle had designed the art as the source of all feeling in the body, the brain being nothing but earth and water, it was not until the Middle Ages that understanding and intelligence began to be linked to the head. Avicenne, Albert the Great, and Gregor Reis were the first to represent brain functions as a topography of the skull and based on the possible existence of chamber facilitating understanding and emotion. During the Renaissance, anatomy revealed the complexity of the brain, prompting Leonardo da Vinci's earliest drawings and subsequently throughout the 16th century, the engravings in work by, for example, Johann Dreyer and Andreas Vesalius. Rembrandt's The Anatomy Lessons of Dr. Johann Damon emphasized the notion that the body and mind are separate. as posited by René Descartes. Anatomical analysis gradually led to a morphological understanding of the brain. Raymond Vicius, Jacques Fabien Gauthier d'Agoty, and Félix Vic d'Azir intended to construct a map of the faculties borne out by the pseudoscience of phenomenology. The first real evidence, thanks to the microscope of the nervous system, thanks to Pierre Gratiolet, led to the discovery of neurons. Finally, confirmation of the brain as a dynamic system, thanks to, for example, Camilo Colgui, Santiago Ramon y Cajal, prompted the invention of new ways to view it, such as radiography, encephalograms, and magnetic resonance, all of which revealed the power of neurotransmission in the cerebral world. So you have a lot of images, which was the point, the departure point for the graph. And in parallel with this graph, you had works of art. And for example, the work of Jack Berman. Jack Berman is born in Canada in 1849. And he was always fascinating with photographic representation of the brain and death. And this fascination led him to medical laboratories, places of worship and catacombs all over the world. A second section underlines the abiding interest of the computing pioneers in games, all the way to the ultimate face-off between man and computer, the experiment in which the Deep Blue software beat chess player Garry Kasparov. The idea that a robot could be as intelligent as a human being developed originally from games like North, Crosses, Draughts, and chess. In the wake of the fake robots constructed by Baron von Kempelen and Charles Hopper, Charles Babbage, whose analytical engine was the precursor of the computer, was the first to research decision tree based on North and Crosses. Also, it was Leonardo Torres who created the first functioning robot. It was John von Neumann's minimax theorem, an algorithm that optimizes the decision-making process to enable computers to determine the appropriateness of each move that paves the way for learning models. The pioneers of computing, Alan Turing, Konrad Zuse, Claude Shannon, developed chess and draws, playing computers programs in order to optimize the logic of decision-making. The increasing power of computers, which helped the likes of first Alan Newell and Herbert Simon, and then scientists like Donald Michie, John McCarthy, in their efforts to develop artificial intelligence, intensified the face-off between the man and machine, culminating in the creation of the Deep Blue program and the machine victory over champion chess player Garry Kasparov in 1997. In 2016, World Go champion Lee Sedol was beaten by the AlphaGo Zero program from Google DeepMind, which went on to develop a similar artificial intelligence program for the real-time strategy game StarCraft. So here you have a work of Julien Prévieux. Julien Prévieux uses his drawings, installations, and films to deconstruct the mechanism introduced by cutting-edge technologies to constrain the individual by appropriating them and hitchhiking their original function. Inspired by a device created by Donald Michie, a British scientist famous for managing to decipher coded German messages, Menace 2 is a reactivation of Menace, one of the first ever learning machines. Constructed using empty matchboxes, this piece of furniture was a dynamic sculpture and experiment which plays and learns how to play notes and crosses tic-tac-toe. Further on, we had a Zyber Zoo, and it was this timeline and the pictures. So also the first robots were capable of interacting with their environment. Here we have the computer pioneers, mathematicians, and information and communication systems theorists, which was developed by the first interactive machine, most often in the form of animals. In 1949, Norbert Wiener, who a year earlier had published Cybernetics, or Control and Communication in the Animal and the Machine, Norbert Wiener created Palomilla, which resembled a moth. He introduced the notion of feedback, which would be developed by Ross Ashby, author of Design for a Brain, and inventor of the homeostat, a machine that reacted by disturbance in its environment. The neurophysiologist William Gray Walter designed the first robots to feature a system of two neurons with learning ability, giving them the form of automated tortoises. Thus, of all of this research into artificial intelligence by the cybernetics pioneer created a cyber zoo of machines in various animal forms, foxes, ladybirds, and tortoises, up to comparison with two real animals. We decided with Frédéric Miguerou not to include anthropoid robots because they were too closely associated with the idea of machines taking over human faculties. So we had only a cyber zoo with tortoises, foxes, and so on. So connected with this timeline, we had the work of Nicolas Schoeffer. Nicolas Schoeffer was influenced by the writing of Norbert Wiener on cybernetics, and he explored the concepts of space, light, and time via a collection of works that applied the principles theorized in spatiodynamics, luminodynamics, and chronodynamics. His most iconic work includes SIP1, a cybernetic sculpture incorporating choreography by Maurice Béjart on the roof of Le Corbusier Cité Radieuse in 1956, and Kildex 1, a cybernetic show developed for the Hamburg Opera with a choreography by Alvin Nicolais and music by Pierre Henry. We had also this work of Dimut Strebe. Dimut Strebe works with scientists and artists, and it's her project. This one was called The Prayer. For this project, she created a machine connected with a computer and featuring a nose, mouth, and artificial vocal cord, which speaks words, articulating them, pausing, and taking breath. The machine uses deep learning to recite prayers which are generated in the moment and on an ongoing basis. We had also in this exhibition a part dedicated to neuroscience. And here you have some pictures. And for example, we showed the work, the project, the Blue Brain project, which is a project developed by Professor Henri Markram. Its aim is to use computers to design reconstructions and simulations of the brain. And this virtual brain with faithfully reproduced brain circuits, thus helping to improve understanding and of how they function. By using supercomputers that can simulate large-scale model of brain circuits, the Blue Brain project constitutes an innovative approach to the study of the various structures and functions of the brain. We showed also the project of Neurospin. Neurospin is a brain research laboratory that has opened since January 2007 at the French Atomic Energy Commission Centre at Paris-Saclay University. And it's concerned with the field of artificial intelligence, as well as the social sciences and industry. The film being shown here was produced especially for the exhibition. And it gave an overview of the brain of several people. And it focused gradually, zooming in bit by bit and increasing the level of details. And we had a real good say on brain connections. Here you have the work of Hermann Kunst. And here from Greg Dunne. Greg Dunne is a neuroscientist, but also an artist. And with self-reflected, he depicts the sagittal section of an imaginary brain created from scratch. Here you have the work of Hicham Berrada. Hicham Berrada was born in Casablanca in Morocco. And with this work, he created landscapes and living ecosystems in which vegetable, mineral, and organic commingles were together. Here you have the work of Refik Anadol. Refik Anadol is a Turkish artist who lives and works in Los Angeles. And he specializes in data visualization systems, exploring the links between architecture and visual art in the context of digital devices. On-gram data sculpture is an immersive installation in which art and neuroscience meet. The brain waves of more than 80,000 volunteers who were asked to focus on a memory have been here captured by encephalogram and interpreted as dynamic 3D paintings by an algorithm. Thanks to GlassBrain, a technology used in targeted treatments of neurological disorders such as Alzheimer's, the work is both a scientific and aesthetic interpretation of thought and how it flows. One section of the exhibition was dedicated to expanded mind. And it was devoted to neuroscientific investigations, which were dealing with consciousness and extending with cognitive capacities. Spearheaded by Warren McCullough, the Massey conferences gathered together specialists from across all disciplines, mathematicians, logicians, and engineers, as well as psychologists and anthropologists, and were behind the cybernetics movement inspired by the cognitive and information sciences. This series of meetings prompted much research into understanding the possibility of simulating human intelligence. The American Army developed numerous programs around extending the capabilities of the human mind, psychotropic drugs, mind control of the potential of artificial intelligence. The concept of the extended mind is inextricably linked to research on computational intelligence. The writer, William Burroughs, and the inventor, Brian Geising, with his dream machine, had a well-known interest in narcotics, but they were also into cybernetics. Various designers were developing technological objects, such as Walter Pichler and its helmets, Aurucker Co., Kopp Himmelblau, Stellark, Hugo Lapietra, and so on. Here you have, for example, the work of Alvin Lucier. Alvin Lucier encountered the scientist Edmond Dewan, who was working on alpha waves. The latter invited Lucier to take part in an experiment that involved composing a piece of music from brain waves. Never having composed any music before, Lucier accepted and gave a performance during which he remained seated with his eyes closed in a relaxed state conducive to the transmission and retransmission of waves. Using sensor and then amplifiers, a paradoxical works was created out of inactivity and non-intentionality. Here you have the work of Pierre Cutellic. Pierre was working on his doctoral thesis in Zurich on computer-aided architectural design, and Stargazer was a result of research into new modeling techniques for architectural design using mixed artificial intelligences and combination of human and artificial intelligence. Here you have the results in the exhibition, and here's the work of Lu Yang. Lu Yang is a Chinese artist, and she was based in Shanghai, and she was featuring popular imaginary from the world of manga and video game. By embracing all digital imaging technologies, she created a new synthetic universe in which the artist removes all notions of genre. In delusional mandala, the artist has placed multiple avatars in her image within a contemporary universe dominated by artificial intelligence. Here's the work of William Latham. William Latham was a regular visitor to the collections of in the Natural History Museum in London, and he is aware of the infinite variety of shapes in nature, and as a result, he established a protocol for creating a classification tree featuring conical shapes, which he expands progressively. This work is the origin of his experiments with computers. The artist also developed shape-generating software in order to create artificially colored organic creatures that fall somewhere between flora and fauna. Finally, we focused on a classification, on the notion of a classification knowledge in the form of a tree and a diagram of neural networks, demonstrating how important the history of statistical simulation and logic has been in the development of intelligent artificial. So you have, for example, is the work of certain measures. Certain Measure is an agency co-founded by Andrew Witt and Tobias Nolte, and which has quickly made a name for itself in digital architectures. Aerosphere is a collection of the outlines of around 1,000 airports from around the world, made possible thanks to machine learning method. The outlines are structures into a wide variety of typologies, like exotic species in an entomological collection. And to create the work, 8 automatic viewing modes were used and applied to open data sources and satellite images so that the viewer observes from the surrealistic points of view of a computer and how it views, classifies, and organizes colors and shape. Here's the work of Catherine Griffiths. We showed also the work of Mario Klingemann. Mario Klingemann was one of the first artists to use convolutional neural networks and machine learning to establish the framework for generative art. For example, his most famous project, Memories of a Passerby, is based on an artificial intelligence program into which thousands of portraits, paintings from the 17th century and 19th century were loaded so that aesthetic and typological criteria could be defined to serve as the basis for the creation of new portraits entirely by the machine. Each of these unique portraits is generated by the program according to a technique the artist calls neural glitch. Here you have the work of Jonas Lund. Jonas Lund is a Swedish artist, and thanks to this dual training, because he is both skilled in computing program and he is also artist. Thanks to this dual training, he develops his own algorithm, which he uses for aesthetic and critical purposes. In 2016, he created the New Now series from an algorithm that uses deep learning to analyze every work ever created by the artist in order to suggest new projects that would be likely to sell on the art market. Here you have the work of Anna Riedler. Anna Riedler was born in Great Britain in 1985, and she creates alternative narratives by using GAN, generative adversarial networks, algorithms that function in deep learning. They were notably used for mosaic virus, you can see there, which depicts 3 evolving tulips generated by an artificial intelligence program. The flowers change according to the variation of big point, and when we pointed when we ask to Anna Riedler how does the artist resist to artificial intelligence, she content to answer that only the artist has the power to decide what artificial intelligence can learn. So you have this critical impact on his work. Here you have the work of Maxime Matisse, who collaborates with scientists and artists to imagine new languages in which the real and virtual worlds intertwine. And with this work, the Ministry of Privacy, he reappropriates the functionality of facial recognition software used in surveillance cameras in China, mainly to monitor the country's minority. In so doing, he invites us to question how new technologies are used and to reflect on the possible loss of control by these innovations. So with this exhibition, we focused on the question of representation of the intelligence, artificial intelligence. And we decided to do this research to better understand this phenomenon and find alternative ways to resist of global control and absence of critical perspectives. For us, artists are really prescriber, and the artists can offer us new alternatives. And that's why it's very important to show their works and to establish parallel between scientific innovations and scientific artistical works. So thank you for your attention.